It's been suggested that stories are like chemistry. So let's see what happens when we add the chemistry of two stories from two different persuasions. What will it bring? What will it arise in us? This mixture. The first is a story about a seeker after truth. He'd become a recluse in his seeking, reading the ancient texts, the ancient spiritual texts, practicing the rituals, fasting, spending many hours in prayer. But truth eluded him. But one day he heard that there in a far distant monastery was an old monk who would ask a question that was like a key to open truth in whoever received that question. So he set out to make the journey to that monastery, and when he arrived and came into the presence of the old monk said to him, "Your question is, what are you leaving out?" Now the day passed and everyone left the reception hall, and the seeker after truth took himself to the little chapel, and there he knelt with the words of the old abbot ringing in his head. But then it became like a voice to him. "What am I leaving out?" Louder and louder until it seemed to resonate from his toes, right up his legs, all up his torso. All throughout his being rang the question, "What am I leaving out?" Until it resonated out onto the walls of the chapel, off the pews, off the altar. What am I leaving out? What am I leaving out? The night passed with this agony of this sound ringing throughout his being and throughout the whole of his area of perception. Finally, as the sun was just creeping up over the hills, he jumped up and he ran down the passageway where the little rooms of all the monks were. And he knocked on each door, and from behind the door a sleepy voice answered to his question, "What am I leaving out?" Me. To each door that he went, the reply to his plea was, me. He dashed to the door and went outside, and he could feel the wind, and he shouted to the wind, "What am I leaving out?" And the wind said, me. He looked up at the sky where the sun was just beginning to bring its beautiful colors and asked, "What am I leaving out?" And the sun said, me. He fell to the ground and put his head on the earth and cried, "What am I leaving out?" And the earth replied, me. The second story is told in a place far away, nestled in a valley beside tall mountains. And there lived an old widow. She toiled in the fields to make a subsistent living for herself and her only son as he grew and grew. But the old widow had great hopes that her son would grow into a worthwhile being to be able to keep her as she grew older and more frail, unable to work, as she was hard in the fields. But her son was judged to be a ne'er-do-well. He was judged by the villagers to be a lazy, no-gooder. His mother bewailed her fate. She would often beseech him, "When will you be like other young men and go out and earn a living to keep me in my old age?" But her son, who was called Quazim, would reply dolefully, "What can I do? Since I was born, my luck has been asleep. I have no luck." The days passed and the old widow grew more frail. So in desperation, she went to the imam to ask him to intercede with her son. So the imam came and spoke to Quazim, telling him of the morals and the ways of their faith, that he should be out, taking care, earning a living like other young men. But he gave the same reply, "What can I do? Since I was born, I have had no luck. My luck is asleep." So no matter what the imam said, he could not convince Quazim to change his ways. The old widow turned to the elders of the village, but they too had no luck in convincing Quazim to become a worthwhile young man. The same reply was given. But then there was in that village an old woman who was said to be very wise. So the old widow went to the old hag, as she was called, crone, and told her story. The old crone said, "Wait, I will wait the proper opportunity and I will visit your son." So indeed this is what she did. Of course, Quazim, even when the call to prayer came, he would put his head under the covers and go back to sleep until it was time to get up to eat. But the old woman chose a time when he would be doing just that, getting up to have the simple meal that his widowed mother had left for him. But she did not beseech him, she did not scold him. She passed the time of day with him, giving him a little gossip of the town. But then she asked him what was life for him, and in his morose way he said the same thing that he'd said to so many. "What can I do? Since my birth, I've had no luck, and my luck is asleep." "Oh," said the old woman, she said, "I knew a young man who was just like you. But then one day he decided that he was going to go and find his luck and wake him up." "Oh," said Quazim, "I never thought of that. I never thought of doing that. I'm going to set out and do that. I'm going to go and look for my luck." So the very next morning he got up, spoke to his old mother, who was delighted and elated. So she prepared some bread and cheese for him and a flask of water, and Quazim set out on his quest to find his luck and wake him up. Now the day was long and grew hot, so there came a time where he came to a little oasis, you might call it, some trees where he sat down and ate some of the bread and cheese and quaffed some of the water that his mother had given him. And just as he was going to lie down and have a little snooze, he heard a great roaring sound, and a great lion came out of the bushes, threatening him, just about to pounce on him. Quazim thought to himself, "Here, I've set out on this quest, and now I'm to die before I even achieve my goal." But instead of pouncing, the lion sat in front of Quazim and said, "I could eat you, but first of all I'm going to ask you what you're doing." Quazim answered that he was going on a quest to find his luck and wake him up. "Oh," said the lion, "I have a big problem. I wonder if you'll ask your luck when you find him to solve my problem." "Oh yes," said Quazim. The lion said, well, my brain seems to be turning to mush. I'm king of the jungle, but, since my brain is turning to mush, I'm losing my mojo, so to speak. Will you ask how I can get it back?" And Quazim said, "Yes, I'll do that." So Quazim set out on his way. And, of course, the days passed for him, and they were long, because it seemed to be a long, long journey. But there was an occasion when he was sitting under a great elm tree. And as he was sitting there, the tree spoke to him and said, where are you going, young man?" And Quazim said, "I'm going to find my luck and wake him." Oh, said the tree, "well, very good luck to you. I wish you well, give you blessing on your way." So Quazim went on his way, and one day, to his very great surprise, he came out of a tree-filled forest, and there in front of him seemed to be a great castle. And just as he was approaching the castle gates, he looked up, and there, on the balcony, were two beautiful maidens, one with long, black, ebony hair, and the other with hair as white as the driven snow. And they invited him in, "Come, share with us our feasting." But Quazim, although tempted, said, "I'm on my quest, I'm looking for my luck, and I'm going to wake him up." "Oh, we wish you well," said the beautiful young pair, and he went on his way. But then he had to cross a wide river. And as he was filling his flask once again, the river spoke to him and asked him again where he was going. And he answered again what his quest was. The river said, "Great, great good luck to you in your quest to find your luck." So Quazim went on, and then he came to a vast, wide desert. There it seemed, just at the edge of his eyesight, he saw a tree, and barely beneath it he could make out the figure of a being. So he crossed this desert, and there, under the tree, was a strange-looking being. But as Quazim approached, the little being seemed to wake up and stretch himself, and Quazim said, "What are you doing out here in this lonely place under this lone tree?" And the little being said, "I've been waiting for you. I am your luck, and whilst I was waiting for you, I decided to sleep." Quazim was delighted to find his luck at last. And Quazim said, "Hurry, hurry, we must go back to my mother. She'll be worried about where I am, and I can't wait to have you with me so that I can begin my new life." "Oh," said his luck, "then come, you go ahead of me, and I'll follow behind you." But then his luck said to him, "But wait, I must first forewarn you that you're going to have 3 tests on the way, and if you do not pass these tests, I'm going to leave you forever." So Quazim set out on the route back to his village, and every now and again he'd turn around and see whether his luck was following him, and was very happy when he found that he was. But then they came to the river that Quazim had crossed and drunk from. And when he again bent to fill his flask and drink, the river said, "You know, just around the bend from here, there's an old willow tree. And under that willow tree, under its flowing branches, there is a treasure to be found." Quazim said, "I have no time for that. I'm on my way back to my village, to my mother, who is worried about me, to start my new life, because now I have my luck with me." And so he went on. And then he came, surprisingly, to the castle, where the 2 maidens, standing in the turrets, looked down at him and beckoned him. They said, "Our father, the king, has just died. Why don't you come and join us? You can take over this kingdom with all its wealth." "Oh no," said Quazim, "I'm on my way home to my village, to my mother. I have my luck with me to start my new life." So he went on. And again he came to the great elm tree. And as he sat again resting, checking that his luck was behind him still, the tree said, "Did you find your luck?" "Yes," said Quazim. Then the tree said, "Well, you know, deep under my roots, if you dig, you will find a treasure trove." "Oh no," said Quazim, "I'm on my way home to my village to start my new life. I have my luck with me now." But after Quazim moved along, his luck caught up with him and said, "You have been tested 3 times, and 3 times you have failed. I will leave you now forever." Quazim was broken-hearted. He pondered on what it was that had occurred, and it became totally evident to him what it was that disenabled him from passing the test that would have brought him great riches. He staggered on down the road until he came to the little oasis, and he sat, tears flowing down his face. And out of the bushes came the lion. "Did you fulfill your quest?" it asked. "Yes," said Quazim. "Did you ask the question that I asked you?" "Yes," said Quazim. "I asked my luck, and my luck told me that to enable you to regain your faculties and your abilities, you would have to kill and eat the brain of the greatest fool that you could meet." So Quazim, of course, recognizing that he was that fool, waited for his fate, waiting for the great lion to pounce. But instead of doing so, the great lion said, "Yes, I could eat you, but it is not my brain that is mushy, because I too tested you, and because you came back and answered the question that was asked of you, I will spare you. Now go and know that your luck has not deserted you. Your luck is with you always." So Quazim went back to a joyous welcome by his mother. He immediately went to the village to seek work, which he obtained from a storekeeper, and in due time he became the helper that would inherit the business of this storeman. He married a comely wife. They had children and lived a good life from there on. The chemistry of stories. Whether we take them in with our mind or after meditating, we find ourselves in that place where the mind is subsumed by that state that we've come to recognize that arises out of contemplation and meditation. So the chemistry does its work. This being the case, it can be asked of you, what is it that arises for you as an understanding or the meaning or that which is created as the chemistry of stories meet? What am I leaving out? And what luck represents for us in this story. If the lion is our real self, what does luck represent for us?
I don't think there's any such thing as that. I think it's representing a figment thing of our imagination. I don't think there's any such thing as luck. I think we're the lie.
Then what did it represent in this story?
Well, that you just never have. That's that thing of like you just never have time, so you don't really answer to who you really are because you're too busy doing other, getting somewhere, and there's nowhere to go really.
Kind of like distractions and with life, the illusions outside that are luring us instead of staying on that true path, as a knowing. And yeah, so for me it just felt a bit like a loser. It's everything outside ourselves that could possibly fill us, but it's not what he knew what he wanted, and even if you die for it, you stayed there.
Me.